Welcome to I Write Out Loud, um, podcast that goes behind the scenes of some of the creative nonfiction that I write here. I'm very happy to see you all joining. Hi. Oh, you're all joining, and I see two Joyces and two Ritas, same last name. So it looks like that's just a Substack glitch. Hi, Ginger. Hi, Andrea or Andrea. I'm not sure how you say your name, but lovely to see you all joining today. I always like to start these lives very casually and give people a few minutes to join, and also for Kira to come say hello. Here she is. There's the baby. Kira! She's looking out the window. There must be danger incoming. Hi, Lynette. I'm really excited to talk to you all today. I had a new essay go live this morning called I Went on My Third First Date in Over 6 Years. And it is the finale of a trilogy of essays that I posted this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in a row. And I have a lot to say about these. I am going to give a few more minutes. Hi, Kat. I'm going to give a few more minutes for folks to join before I really dive into some analysis. So while I know you know what we're going to need to do, right, folks? If anyone knows anyone who works at Nature Naws, whatever company puts these out, they should totally be sponsoring all of my lives, because this is the only thing that keeps my lives going. Come here. Come over toward the camera so people can see your cute face. Want to do that? Here, we'll turn a little. There she goes. There she goes. And each other treat, and it's too good, and she'll go run and try to bury it. But this is like the one tree she just sits and wants. It's awfully cute. So that out of the way, I Write Out Loud. It's a little background. I just launched this project. It's been almost a month. February 2nd was my first post. So nearly a month of writing out loud. And this is the home for my creative nonfiction writing. And I'm realizing as I write memoir, it's not really just memoir. It's memoir meeting cultural analysis, right? It's me connecting patterns that I see in my life, that I see happening in the broader ecosystem, but bringing them to life through memoir writing. And that is a really sweet spot for me. And it's something I've been doing and kind of honing for a few years. And I found that I had work all over the internet, right? And I was like, how do I create a home for this work? And how do I refocus my attention on it? Because 2025, man, was a rough year politically for this country. It's continuing to be rough. I don't see it getting any better, but I also don't want art to wait. I don't want creativity to wait. So this is my audacious act of speaking out loud as a woman on the internet, writing down the bones of my experiences, what I'm learning from them, making kind of cultural connections from my lived experiences, but also putting art at the forefront and creating this curated experience of the best of the essays that I've written over the last few years, and also, of course, any new essays that I'm writing. And by writing out loud, I am also speaking these essays out loud. Every single essay in I Write Out Loud, I narrate it. So you can listen to the pre-recorded one if you wish, but there is the ability to listen to me reading it. And I asked at the beginning how many people read versus listen, and it was a surprising number of folks who said that they primarily listen. So I have to think that that's something that's of value, and I feel like it's casting a spell by putting these words out into the world. Not sure what the intent of the spell is yet, but this is now week 4, and it's just been delightful getting to share new essays and to re-experience some of these older ones, and to see narrative arcs forming as I look back through the wisdom of hindsight at some of the work I've written. There is a link I'm going to put a few links in. There is a link just to I Write Out Loud, to my Substack, where you can find all of the stories and then all of the podcasts that I've been doing about each story. I'm also going to put I am going to humbly put in a link to my subscribe page. While all of this content lives ahead of the paywall, and it always will, I doing this is obviously quite a big lift, and I appreciate any support you all have to offer. There are benefits to being a paid subscriber, and one of them is every Sunday I do a special paid subscriber only live. I think I'm going to name it, you guys. I'm thinking of it in my head as the Salon, and in calling it the Salon, I think it's going to go a little deeper. It's going to be a place to ask questions, to bring cultural analysis related to life. And if you are able to offer monetary support for the work that I'm doing, I would welcome your patronage and support. I would be so grateful. It starts at $4 a month. So if you're able to, great. If you're not, I'm just thrilled that you are here. So getting that out of the way, I am now going to go share the link to today's essay. And today's essay, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the third in a trilogy. And I didn't know when I started writing these originally that they would be a trilogy because I wrote them as I lived them. And I lived them thinking with each date, maybe this is the love of my freaking life and I never have to go on a first date again. Spoiler alert, none of these men were the love of my life. And I have had many dates and romantic experiences since these happened. But what's fascinating to me in revisiting these early essays is, in addition to each story containing a narrative arc, and the three of these together containing a narrative arc, I'm realizing that this time window when I was newly dating again after a 6-year relationship ended creates a really fascinating narrative arc. And with the completion of this essay, we're about 2/3 of the way through it. Next week, we'll finish it together. And it's a rough read, parts of it. I will say that. And what's fascinating as now, 2.5 years have gone by. And so I'm a more neutral observer of my words as I read them. I can see myself swinging from this sense of stability to disequilibrium for different reasons. I go into these states of disequilibrium, but kind of what the cost of them is. And now, as me 2.5 years later, what I've learned and how these stories are the start of that learning is fascinating to me. So I'm going to get into some of that today. Some of it will wait till the salon on Sunday, which I think will be at 10 a.m. my time, 1 o'clock East Coast time. I'll schedule it shortly. Excuse me. So that's all the background, I think, for today. And hi to everyone who's joined. I'm glancing at the list. Hi, Eric. Hi, Grandma. Hi, Lynette, Margaret, Mike, Mary, Tina, Jessica. Those are the folks who are on my screen right here. There's probably Michaela, Teray or Terry. I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. It's a really cool name. I'm going to write a quick hello in the chat. And now I'm going to focus my attention forward so that I'm not dividing my attention beyond when I'm looking at the essay itself. And we're going to talk about, I went on my third first date in over 6 years. So the origin story, I think a lot of you who are here today already know this, was a story called I Had a Little Our Relationship. And it's the story and then Above the Rise and then the eventual ending of a relationship I was in for over 6 years. And without dwelling on that story, I will say when it ended, I was in this very calm state, equilibrium. I was like, I am so happy to be living my own life. I am not looking for a romantic or sexual partner right now. I just want to write and be with my friends and go singing and be with my children and just be happy. And then after a few months went by, I thought, well, I'm in a pretty good place. Let's see if there is anyone out there for me to meet. That's when the first encounter was a long distance online encounter, a man I never met. The 2 essays from last week were about that. And sleep deprived, completely giddy, like maybe this is how the love of my life really starts. Newsflash, it wasn't. Once he was done, was disappeared. Never heard from that man again. Which is not the last time that that has happened to me, and it is very jarring for a very relational person like me. So I'm sleep deprived and I'm, revved up emotionally and physically because I really wanted this man. And then he disappears, and I'm like, clearly the next indicated thing to do is to start dating, right? Because I don't know, lizard brain. So I get back on the dating apps, but mostly I also look to my own broader network. And I decide along the way that I don't want to just be chosen by a guy who likes me. I want to be the one doing the choosing because I know what it is that I want, right? That's the start of this trilogy. And at a glance, as the narrator, I feel like I do appear regulated. When I read these 3 essays, the first one, the first date, someone I knew from Facebook. He was very hot, like very good looking, but I felt nothing. And it was just we had a drink and it ended. The second one was someone I asked out from a dating app. And he was a very nice man. We met at a very cold bar because it was outdoors. We brought our dogs. It was January. And so that date was too cold, both the temperature and also just my lack of response and being like, this guy's a little too placid for me. But this third date, I was like, Goldilocks. Will this date be just right? And here's the interesting thing. Even though I appear like a very composed narrator while I'm writing these, I am profoundly in a state of disequilibrium. I have had my heart broken by this man who completely opened himself up to me and me to him virtually, and I thought I was totally head over heels for him, then yank all that back. And so I got left with all that energy, and I thought, let me try to find a place to put that energy. And instead, what I found across these 3 dates was nothing romantic. It was romantic indifference, or so it appeared. I have no evidence then or now to the contrary. And it was another form of disequilibrium, even though I sound calm as a narrator telling these stories. So, this third date, as we get into this story, I'm going to check my notes here because I did have things I wanted to say. Um, and I want to make sure that I say these things. So here I am. I ask out a man who I have had a crush on for many months. Y'all, when I tell you this is one of the prettiest men I've ever seen in person, I'm not exaggerating. And I like really pretty men. I have a type. And so I met him. This is kind of a dreamy start too. Like this should be the way I would meet a man. I went to a gala for a large nonprofit here in Seattle. It was super fun. I went with one of my best friends, a woman, and we kind of got seated at the leftovers table. If y'all have ever been to a wedding and you're probably single at that wedding, and you end up sitting at this table with a bunch of people where you're like, we were the leftovers. You didn't know who to seat us with. And so you just kind of hodgepodged us all at one table. You're probably off in the corner. Those tables tend to be the most fun tables. Chime in if you agree, if you've ever done that, or if you agree that those tend to be the most fun ones. That's what this was. There were, I think, 8 of us at the table. And like, I knew my friend, and there was a couple there, and then there were 3 men who knew each other, and I'm forgetting who the other people were, but it was, it was so fun. We all got along like gangbusters, and this man was one of the people at this table. And I was just like, oh my God, he's so pretty. There's no way that this guy is single, straight, age appropriate, or interested in me. And outwardly, he didn't really appear to be. We talked, and I learned he was an author. Like he could get dreamier, you guys. He had published a book, like a novella. And so here I am, just like, um, and at the end of the night, because everybody was like, woohoo, drinking wine, donating to a great cause, having so much fun. At the end of the night, we all exchanged phone numbers. So we were like, we're going to hang out again. We never hung out again. But I did get this man's phone number. And so I bought his book because that's how I am. And so I texted him actually first and said, what was the name of your book? I'd like to buy it. And he thanked me. I ordered the book. It arrived. I took as cute a photo as I could of my weird face and sent it to him. Haha, here I am with your book. And he wrote back like, thank you, Dana! Exclamation point. But that was it. There was no additional engagement on his end. And so I'm like, yeah, I don't, you do as much as you can. I was willing to do like a bit of lifting, but I wasn't getting any vibe. Many months go by, and the same friend who I'd gone to the event with sends me a text and says, hey, Dana, guess who's on Bumble? And of course, it's this man. And he is straight. He's single because he's on Bumble. He's looking for a relationship. He is exactly my age, like almost to the day, exactly my age. And there he is on Bumble. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So what do you think I do? I finally finished the book. I didn't read it the first time. So I speed read the book as fast as I can. And then I texted and I said, I finally, all these months later, I finished your book. I loved it. And he was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And we agreed we should get together to talk about his book. Because I was like, oh, I've got questions about this character. And, and I was like kind of a newer memoirist, but I was still like, I write too. And I'd love to talk to you about writing. And so it takes some prodding, a little, gentle nudging on my part. But eventually we agree that we're going to meet for dinner and drinks. And he's coming to my neighborhood. So we live kind of far apart. And I was like, oh my God, this is a date. I am going on a date with this man. So I am like over the moon. Here I am. I have at this point been single for August, 4 or 5 months now, right? About 5 months. And, super hungry for this one guy who never materialized. And I've gone on 2 dates with these guys who I feel nothing for. And now I'm like, this is it. The first guy was too hot. The second guy was too cold. This guy is going to be just right. And I put on a beautiful, outfit, and I I go to the restaurant where we're meeting, and he shows up right after I do, and I'm just like, do you remember that scene in Amelie, the movie Amelie, where she sees the guy who she's crushed out on, and she just sort of turns into a puddle and melts all over the floor? That's me. But on the inside, on the outside, I'm like, okay, cool. And we sit down. So this essay, provides a lot of the details about ordering drinks and joking around and talking about his book and ordering food. And I am so excited to be there and so nervous that 2 things happen. One is I can't eat a thing. Like I take like a couple bites of the appetizer we get just because I'm like, I'm drinking alcohol. I have to not be weird and not eat at a dinner date. But that happens, and also I cannot stop talking. I am just like da 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 da, da like because I'm so nervous. When I get nervous, I talk a lot. I mean, I talk a lot anyways, but here I am going on and on and on, and I write in the story of how, like, I'm aware that there's this part of me up here that's like, "Dana, you're talking too much," but I can't make it stop, or at least I don't. And, the waiter comes around and is like, "Do you want another round?" And of course we say yes. And I'm drinking old fashions, which are strong as fuck, right? They're bourbon and sugar. I do love me a good old fashioned, but I, I'm looking at my notes I wrote here. So the theme, there were kind of themes for each date, right? Essay one, a kind of meta theme, is this sense of emotional latency after a long term partnership, right? I'm like looking at this guy, but I'm like, we're just like this. And then the second date, there's a temperament awareness where I'm like, I'm a person who believes in a spark and a connection, not just a romantic spark, but a human who contains a spark. And very introverted, very calm people can still have that spark, right? That joie de vivre, so to speak. I took Spanish, not French, so forgive me if I said that wrong. Um, and this person just didn't have that inner spark, either with me romantically or just sort of in general. He was just sort of a very chill person. This one, though, when I'm so like, oh my gosh, this guy has so much of what I'm looking for, um, overcorrection. When I'm so out of practice and so dysregulated from like this long-term relationship where I was sated but not fully like sparked with someone. And then to feel the spark with this person, virtually who wasn't there. And then these other dates where there was nothing, I was performing, I think, instead of relating. And drinking too much because of the nerves and not eating enough to absorb the alcohol. And so here I am just like, I'm like floating above this encounter. Um, and what was so interesting was he was so pretty. Did I mention how pretty he was? He was so pretty. But if I'm honest with myself, sitting across from him at that table, I didn't feel a chemical response to him either. And I think I do this on first dates now. This is part of my like 50 something, been there, done that so many time dating exhaustion that unless my suitor makes it very clear that he's very interested in me and that I also feel that way, I feel a million miles away because I'm sitting there like, I don't know if he likes me. I don't know if he likes me. Um, in my limited experience, often the ones who are good at coming forward and letting you know they're interested end up being not great men to date. Do with that information what you will. But I think I want to read a bit of the essay now. I'm going to open it up here and go find this first part that I want to read. Let me see here. Um, Here it is. Okay. So I've already gone through the details of the date here and me talking a lot and not eating. But this is the part I want to read because this has to do, I think this is a bit of a pivot in the story. Before I left for my date, I texted my housemate with where I'd be because safety first. I told them I was nervous and they replied emphatically, "Stop downplaying yourself. Walk into this with the mindset of what does he bring to the table for you? How do you feel about him?" This was excellent advice, and I absolutely did not heed it. He certainly brought a lot to that table. He was kind and responsive and gave me plenty of space to express myself. He was an excellent date. What did I bring to the table? Well, just in the course of this essay, I referred to my speaking style as diarrhea of the mouth. That is a real word, logorrhea. I called myself an idiot 3 times and used the word nervous 5. I brought a lot of self-deprecation to the table, and that's just not like me. Turns out spending those nearly 4 hours chatting with my date didn't make me feel all that great. If I felt not right, how could I have expected him to be just right for me? This wasn't his fault. Being a romantic pursuer is hard. And after 3 rounds of it, not to mention a prolonged crush on this guy, I think my emotions had a momentary meltdown, one that's abated but lingered ever since. all of which created just the sort of dating energy suck I wanted to avoid. I lost sight of myself at that table in my nervous, there's that word again, haze. But in truth, I'm a thoughtful speaker who can hold a conversational partner wrapped with a good story, and one who adores listening when my partner does the same. Nervous isn't my nature, and I rarely worry I'm an idiot. I love the idea of meeting someone who rattles my nerves with excitement at first, but only if he calms them shortly thereafter by assuring me the feeling is mutual. So that's the start of the turning point of this narrative, of recognizing that I don't call it disequilibrium. I'm using that word now in hindsight, but that's what that was. And what's so interesting is I still don't know if this guy was ever interested in me. I have to assume no, or something would have happened, right? Also interesting, this is someone I know on social media still, and he has never commented on the story. And the story's been live for over 2 years on Medium, and now it's live on Substack. I've shared it before on social media when it was on Medium, and never heard from like never. There was no acknowledgement. Um, this guy did message me like before, like I even got home with the like making sure you got home safe. Would love to do it again sometime, and those are usually positive indicators to me in a date. And I do wonder sometimes gotten if I hadn't been so dysregulated that I let myself get that intoxicated, if this would have been a different situation. Who knows? I don't know him that well. Um, but one of the things I learned from this is a sense of like, if I don't feel good and regulated coming in, there's very little chance that something good is going to come out of it. And next week's essay like proves that quite conclusively. But that's just teaser. I'm not going to talk about that one yet. So what I ended up saying and what I wrote in the graphic for this story was I was too much. And that's kind of a life theme for me of I am a lot. I say that earlier in these essays. I want a lot. I am a lot. Usually I am proud of being a lot. But there are times in my life, because so much of my earlier years in my life, I was encouraged always to be smaller. And there are times when I feel like, oh, I'm letting the too much take over in ways that aren't serving me. And I think that's what happened here. There are ways to be a lot and have it be something that is warm and wonderful. And there are ways to be a lot that are that seem a little destructive is too hard a word, but they're just not serving me well, right? You can sense when someone is nervous in a charming way versus nervous in a like I'm flailing way. And I think I was flailing far more than this story lets on. So to pull back and look at these three stories again in aggregate, they're stories about men, right? They're stories about dating at the core. But really, these are not just stories about men. They're stories about reentry. They are stories about dysregulation, projection, performance, and self-possession. And I don't even know if I fully realized that I definitely didn't realize that when I was writing them, because I wasn't writing them after the 3 dates to look back and be a 3-date series. As I said, I wrote each of them after the date happened, and then another date happened, and I wrote another essay, and then a third date happened, and I wrote another essay, and then I was like, okay, no more talking about first dates. I think I've covered the topic. So I feel like this is an ASMR video. I should like lean into the microphone and take a sip. But this story has, since it posted this morning, there were a few really wonderful comments. One from Nick, who I can see is here. One from Lynette, who is here. And the third one was from someone who is new to me, but I'm going to scroll down here to the comments because I thought there were some really good ones. And Lynette, you pulled out a quote from the end of the story that and restacked it, and I wrote back to you because, or maybe you just made a comment. Actually, I don't think you're restacked. Either way, you pulled out one of my favorite parts, and it's the quote. I'm not. I compare it. Actually, let me step back. I might need to read all of this because the one thing I've alluded to Goldilocks throughout this, right? The first date was too hot. The second date was too cold. Would this one be just right? And and the joke I made, I didn't take a picture of my food that night because I was too nervous to let the camera eat first. But it was a Creole style restaurant, and I ordered the etouffee. And I say in the essay that I say, I'm going to order the etouffee because it's fun to pronounce because I have no game. I actually said that out loud. Um, Brilliant. But for those of you who haven't had etouffee, at least the way they serve it at this place, it really did kind of look like gruel, like a bowl of porridge. And I was like, oh, interesting. This dinner is not unlike porridge. And here I am wondering if I am Goldilocks, but I couldn't eat it. Like I really didn't eat any of it until like an hour after I got home, and then I inhaled it all because I was starving. Um, but I actually, let me just read the end of the essay part, and I'll call out the part that Lynette highlighted because I do think this final section is worth a read out loud. It leads with, "I am not Goldilocks. I'm not a lost child." This is the quote that she pulled. "I'm not a lost child. I'm not wandering into a bear's den to forage for sustenance, romantic, emotional, or literal. I don't need to settle for gruel at any temperature. I don't need to sneak into a strange bear's bed, no matter how comfortable. What I am is a complex, brainy, sort of demisexual, assertive, emotionally intelligent woman with a full to overflowing life. Dating isn't going to be a fairy tale. I wouldn't have it any other way, as I love my life. And girls don't tend to fare too well in fairy tales. But what is dating going to be like for me now? My date and I have texted a bit. He halfway suggested getting together again, but has taken no steps to make it happen. The same thing happened after those first 2 dates. Interest outweighed by indifference. I have a strong aversion to apathy, but I've made peace with it as the result of my romantic pursuits, mostly. I've left the door and chat window open with all 3 fellas. If there's to be a second date, then it's on them to walk through it and pursue me. If that happens, great. If not, that's fine too. I've done what I can. I took on the work. That part feels good. It's empowering to know that the next time a man strikes my fancy, I feel confident I could do the work to pursue him. But also, I kind of hope I won't have to. As much as I've learned from going after what I wanted, it's also dawned on me, shouldn't dating be fun? I think I got so immersed in the effort of the pursuit that I lost sight of what I was pursuing. I may not be Goldilocks, or Snow White, or Sleeping Beauty, or Cinderella, or any other damsel in distress princess in a fairy tale. I'm seeking a man, not a prince. But still, I want him to be charming and charmed by me. Dating should be fun and silly and energizing and flirtatious and affirming and sexy and arousing and giddy, especially first dates. Dates shouldn't feel like work. They should feel just right. So I kind of beat the Goldilocks thing down with what do you beat things with? Beating a dead horse, I guess that's what I'm going for. So I really carried through with that one. But I loved this part that Lynette pointed out in her comment about not being a lost child, not settling for gruel, and I'm not going to just sneak into a strange bear's bed. There is talk there of taking back and empowerment. And that's the shift a bit from this sense of dysregulation and like heart chaos to self-awareness. I'd like to say that self-awareness protected me, but it did not, and sometimes still has not. But it was at least there. So um, that's where that trio of essays ends. Again, I didn't know when I wrote the third one that it would be the final of the series, but that is what was there. So um, I'm going to share. Well, first, I'm going to lightly foreshadow that what comes next is kind of the climax and denouement, I guess, of this these first 6 months post, you know, reemerging into dating, and it's the final step of dysregulation, like really profound dysregulation, and me making not great choices in response to that. Um, but then there is a redemption at the end of that arc and some like seriously cool personal growth. So I'm going to tease that because that's going to be next week. Um, those will be the essays I share next week. For this one, I'm going to share most of the tea about kind of behind the scenes what's happened with the salon on Sunday, my paid subscriber lives that I host on Sunday, where I get a little bit deeper behind the scenes and a little more into the framework, the kind of what was happening, in addition to just sort of the gossip of spilling the tea. I did say a little of that I did hear from this band. We continue to be Facebook acquaintances, but um, after a few attempts and a like, hey, we should get together, we even got as far as like planning what our next date would be. It was a concert. I think it was a Silver Sun Pickups concert that was like at a bigger venue here in Seattle that we were going to go to. And we were literally like mid-text, like, oh yeah, but does that night work? Should we buy tickets? And he just went dark. And that was kind of one of the last things that it was so strange to have someone who was like, I want to see, because I'm so literal. I'm a knave. If someone says to me, I'd like to see you again, I believe it. And if someone texts me and is like, hey, do you want to go to a show? I'm like, I would like to go to a show. And so have them just, uh-oh, oh, my kids are here. Hold on one moment. They're not supposed to be here right now, but they are here. I don't think I can pause this, but I'm going to ask you guys to hang on 1 second. Oh, hi. Come on in. I'm behind you. I did so. See, that's okay. I just said it to my husband. See, talk to you in a few minutes. Sorry about that, you guys. Hi, it is me again. Um, where did I leave off? Oh, yes, a bit of the tea. That's a bit of the tea and behind the scenes. There will be more of that on Sunday coming in the salon. And what I think I will do now is I'm going to go up and I'm seeing a comment here. Here, I better read the comments on my screen. It's really hard to see them on the phone, especially with all this bright light coming in. So, um, I am going to start at the bottom and read my way up these comments. So I'm going to start with Adam's comment. Adam, you're a new name to me. Welcome. Hello. Oh, you say, oh my God, I saw Silver Sun pickups with BJTM, is that Black Rebel Motorcycle Club? Who is BJTM? Why can't I think of what that acronym is? Back in the early 2000s at Sunset and Silver Lake. Is that in LA? We have a Sunset here in Seattle too, but Silver Lake must be LA. Adam, you California boy, me too. Okay. I saw Silver Sun pickups during the Three Imaginary Girls era, my music website. It must have been 2002 at the Crocodile Cafe in Seattle. When that one song that kind of sounded like a Smashing Pumpkins song, what is that? Everything out there is connected and beautiful. Da, 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 da. That one like super killer song that was their first song. The only song of theirs I can think of right now. Anyhow, woman bassist, she was badass. They were very fun live. Brian Jonestown Massacre, of course. Very cool. You Ready Grandma is saying Silver Sun Pickups. Yay. Um, Lynette is saying, do you have a notebook where you put ideas down and write later? Because how do you remember a date from 2 or 3 years ago? These essays were written 2 or 3 years ago. So they were written right after. I don't keep a paper notebook. What I keep is my Medium account that's where I started as a writer. So it like remains where I draft. I have about 175 drafts there, and I'll just sometimes just on my thumbs input stuff. So I always have ideas and thoughts bubbling over there. Let me see here. Oh, it looks like Adam and You Ready Grandma are friends now and following each other. I love when that happens through lives. That's always super fun. Let's see here. Blue Oyster Cult. I don't know why you typed Blue Oyster Cult, Nick, but far out. I'm burning for you. Go Godzilla. I'm a fan. You're saying he had another woman. Yeah, probably. Probably. Let me see here. A Dana manifesto. Nick, I don't know what that's referring to. Maybe this trilogy is a manifesto. You can let me know. Lynette, I see you in here moderating. Thank you for telling people about what was happening. We should do an online date on here. Let everybody watch us. Oh, you want to do like a live stream a date? You ready, Grandma? Because that would be a riot. It would be very interesting to see what that would be like. Let's see if you could find a person who is willing to be on the other end of that date. Let's see here. Creole comes from a second generation of immigration. Creole is, yes, children of mixed languages growing to speak. Yeah. Maybe you're saying that because of the restaurant, but yeah, it was very like New Orleans style cuisine. It was yummy. Let me see. I don't think I have ever been dumped as bad as Substack does to me. You mean like kicking you out of lives? I have definitely been dumped worse than Substack kicking me out before. So congratulations if you have not been. If my essays haven't made that abundantly clear, that has definitely happened. Let's see here. I didn't lose Dana. I can still see and hear. Oh, there was connectivity. You wholly listen to me speak for ASMR reasons? Really? I love ASMR videos. I do not think I have an ASMR voice. When I record the lives, I have this, so if I whisper in it, maybe it would be a bit ASMR, but I think I have a kind of a hoarse, voice. ASMR, do it? Oh gosh. Someone's asking, okay, did Dana get swept off her feet? Not today in this essay, that's for sure. Have I been swept off my feet since then? Yes. Are there plenty more essays to come? Yes. Let's see. Before I realized an emotional relationship, I'd hook up and then go off and do my thing. I felt alone no matter how much physical contact I got. Yeah, that has never really been my way, but I imagine that is true. It can be confusing reading backwards, I think. The best way to catch my interest is to be interested in me. Cosign, Nick. So true. Let me see here. Let's see. Well, Lynette, when I was in the dating game, I would unwisely let first dates without emotional chemistry lead to a physical place. And during that time, the sex was good, but the relationship was stagnant because there was nothing else to it. Yeah, that can certainly happen. Yes. And I like Lynette's comment about it. It would be challenging to say after sex, we have nothing in common. I mean, you can have sex in common and that's it, right? Let me see. You've been tricked with sexual chemistry sometimes. Okay. Let me see here. Linnea says, I hope introverted people can have the spark or I'm in trouble. Oh, sometimes they have the most spark. Those are the ones you want to look out for, not the showy ones, but the ones who let you in. Adam says, I must be a fan of Mad Men. I do like because of the old fashions, maybe. I do like Mad Men. You know what, though? I never finished it. I think there's 7 seasons, and I got through season 6, and I never I don't actually know how it ends. One of these days I need to go finish it, but I love Peggy. I mean, clearly I would love Peggy, right? Let me see. I was thinking the book was the man manual, but later in the story you found out it was fiction. Um, if you're referring to my date, he's an author, so the book was a book he wrote. A good one too, a pretty good one. I enjoyed it. So, um, let me see here. I think oh, you ready, Grandma asked, "What's your type of guy, Dana? Punk rockers?" Um, no. You know, um, I definitely have a physical type. They tend to be tall and skinny and willowy. I definitely like the soft boys, not the jocks. Um, I like them very smart and very kind, and not exclusively, but a lot of them do tend to be um, more on the introverted side, and I think that's maybe a balance thing since I'm like, you know, a lot, and very extroverted. But yeah, high cheekbones, pretty hands, nice hair, strong features. I definitely have a physical type. Not all of the men I date align to that physical type, but I do tend to have one. I don't like big, muscly guys. That's not my thing. Let's see here. So I'm scrolling back to catch back up with where I was. The next piece that you were talking about, it sounded like you were kicking up a data manifesto. Oh, um, it's not so much a manifesto. It's a realization that these stories over 6 months form a narrative arc that kind of set up the next stage of my life, even though I didn't know it as I was living it and as I was writing them. It's only through this I Write Out Loud project that I've come to realize that each essay has an arc, but that all of them in aggregate form an arc. And, it's constantly being written. Life is not stagnant, but I feel like that with the essays I will present next week, that will be the end of this series. Like I don't just write about dating and relationships. It's one of many topics that I like to talk about, but I'm leaning heavily into those right now because these are forming a story and I want to complete that story and not interrupt the cycle. Then I'll start on another topic and theme. I'm not sure what yet. Let's see. Pick me, says you ready, Grandma. You wanna do a date live? Like that would be something. Um, let's Nick says I live in New York. Women here sound like an extreme wrestling championship crowd. Okay. That's pretty funny. Um, let's see here. Somebody hopefully tons of body hair. That's the opposite of me. I do not like tons of body hair. Is that what you like? You ready, Grandma? Because we all like our own things, right? Let's see. Peggy is a queen. She's totally a queen. Agreed. Brainy indie boys with awkward personalities. Adam, you completely named my type. That's it right there. Nailed it. That's completely me. Um, let's see. Thanks again, Dana. I rarely listen to any live streams. Yours is great. Thank you. So sweet of you to say. Um, DM me later. Okay, I will. And I think that gets us to the bottom. I've gone through all of the comments and questions here. Does anyone have any other comments, questions, or want to share your own lived experiences that might be similar to this? Now is your chance. I will also be diving into this all a bit more on Sunday when I host the salon, which is what I'm now going to be calling my paid subscriber chat that happens every Sunday, where we dive in a bit deeper. Um, and yes, there will be more opportunities there. But if you do have questions or thoughts, I'm all ears, and the rest of me too. It's a funny expression. I'm all ears because I'm not. I have a lot of hair and other body parts, but the ears and the eyes are wide open today. Um, while waiting for that, I will say Um, when I first launched I Write Out Loud, I have been posting nearly every day during the week, because I wanted to get a good head start on having a body of work in there. I, I'm going to be slowing that down a bit because what I'm realizing is, first of all, it's a ton of work to produce 5 stories with 5 spoken essay, 5 spoken audio recordings and a podcast each week. But more importantly, I feel like the stories aren't getting a chance to live and breathe, because I'm so quickly moving from one to the next. So I'm working on establishing a cadence of how I'm going to do this going forward, and I think I'm going to post 2 stories a week, and they will be thematically related. And then I'm gonna do 2 lives. I'm probably going to do the live the day after. So I'll send the story live. I'll give it a day so that people have a chance to read it. I will post notes about it for some more context. And then the live will be the next day on, so it'd be Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm going to post Wednesdays and Saturdays. I will do the lives. And then Sundays, I will have the salon where I go in a bit deeper. I think 5 is not sustainable either in terms of my my capacity, but also, um, but I don't feel like readers and listeners like you all will be able to keep up. Like that's too much. I also, yeah, I, I, I think that's sufficient. That is likely what I'm going to do. I also I don't know if any of you saw this, but at the end of 2025, I did a few lives that I had 2 names, but I ended up settling on the name Red Flag Roundup. At first, I was calling them Online Dating Derps of the Week. Not as good a name. I thought Red Flag Roundup was pretty good, where I would pull out either a profile or more commonly a response I got online, and I would talk about rhetorical patterns, kind of like what I've learned from the burned haystack dating method and just through lived experience since these essays were written about like what can rule someone in or out. And those videos were very popular. Like they've been more circulated than anything else that I've written or podcasted. And I think I'm going to start doing those again, maybe like once a month, if you all think they will be interesting. Because I certainly have a collection of screenshots on my phone that would be fun to share. So, knowing all of that, I hope you all will stay tuned for that. But for today, I'm going to go because my children now are both here, and I would like to see them and say hello. I am going to. I think this will be my final. I've done 3 this week, and I think I'm going to pause. So you will next see a new essay from me on Tuesday. And if you are a paid subscriber, you will have a live from me on Sunday. Please tune in. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Oh, that was exciting. Did you hear that piano note? Um, oh, and there's one last question here from Nick. How long do I let a concept develop in my head before I start writing? Whew, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes months and months. It completely depends. So I have a few stories in the works right now, so I'm hoping to have a brand new essay to share versus one from the archive soon. But the 2 next week will be from the archive to round out this story. So, with that, thank you all so much for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you on Substack. But I will see you on live, hopefully on Sunday. Bye.